hello, here it is, the first full episode, podcast episode, however you want to say it, of the Kben Talks in Your Ears. I made like a, what's the word I want? Oh God, this is getting off to a great start. An acronym for Kben Talks in Your Ears, so I would remember what my podcast was called, but for some reason the last letter I put was an H, not an E. So I don't know what's happening. This is going to be wild. It's me. Hi, I'm Karyn Bensinger, and I'm here to talk in your ears, hopefully. So this is great. This is solid podcasting. Basically, it is 1 week before the 2020 United States presidential election and some other stuff too. And I am trying to find something to occupy my time because otherwise I don't know. I'll obsess over whatever's happening. So my goal right now with this Patreon feed is to be making a post daily, whether it might be a podcast every day, it might alternate some stuff, but I just kind of want to have an outlet, and hopefully that process for me is entertaining for you, and we will see how that goes, and that's fine. It's fine, I say, as it all burns around us. I am planning to have some conversations this week and into next week with friends of mine, artists that I know, people who are in this pandemic period in history trying to create art, which is already a struggle outside of COVID-19 era. It's something for me. My art is something I pay for with a day job, and it's always kind of it's not a hobby, it's a second job. It's the other thing that I do. And as I mentioned in the teaser for this stuff, I anticipated at the beginning of this that I would be really buckling down and making things for the last 8 months. And for the first 3 to 4 of that, I wasn't. I was so wiped out. And it took a little bit of, it was like I cycled through this process of, yeah, I'm going to do stuff. I don't know that I can. Oh God, there's so much, there's new crazy news every day. What am I going to do? And so it was draining and then it's even more draining, I think, when you are someone who, when you are working a different job to pay for the occupation you want to hold. It's the idea that your time is your most valuable asset. So if I'm not utilizing that time and I'm not making something, what am I doing? Well, I'm either watching a movie or a show or probably scrolling through social media. And one of those two things is largely more beneficial to the artistic process, which is that if I'm scrolling through my socials, it probably has been like a 2-hour time suck that I didn't even realize had passed. And then I'm like, oh God, I just spent, 20 minutes taking a stupid, not even a BuzzFeed quiz anymore. There's these ones that are these like, which Marvel pair of boots are you in the 3 stages of life? I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm wearing this shirt right now. It's Captain Marvel shirt, and I don't care whose boots I am, but I'll still do the quiz. I'll take it because I gotta know, right? So I care, but I don't. I don't know, but so I can be doing that, or at least if I'm watching a movie or an old-fashioned television program, I am watching art, taking it in. If I'm listening to music, if I'm listening to other podcasts, it's at least, I think, to me, it will feed what I want. This project here is born out of the stuff I've been listening to over the last couple of months. And, before this point in time, I still have them, 2 other podcasts, but they haven't been updated in 1.5 to 2 years because there gets to be this stage of the amount of time stuff takes. And you kind of learn like, okay, if I want to do a 2-hour podcast and I want to go in and eliminate all the awkward pauses, that becomes a 4-hour process plus give or take other time, the time to record and the time to do things. So, it was like, oh God, this is taking more of my time and energy than I expected. And it's something that should be so simple. And that was for a 99-cent rental, which I'd like to bring back. And I still have 2 episodes backlogged of that I need to drop. And you would think during pandemic, I got nothing but time, and I still need to finish that. It's on my list. The other podcast is Advice Column Show, the one that I do with Scout Kirkpatrick, where we read the 90s magazines and answer the advice questions. And that's one I would like to continue also. And you'd think that would be so easy because we live together in the same space, and we have been getting along fantastically in our pandemic era. I'm really grateful that I have a partner who is someone who is equally respectful and appreciative of just time by yourself, so that we're really good at being alone together comfortably. And I'm glad about that. I'm very, very grateful. And then the fact that we do, this is going to be so corny, but like, we laugh every day. We make each other laugh. And that is, I think, probably the most valuable thing to have in a relationship right now, because otherwise you're driving each other crazy. And not that we don't occasionally run into that, but I'm just really grateful. But you would think, oh, well, hey, you guys live in the same space. Why aren't you doing podcasts every week? And the answer is, I don't know. It's just like, we talk about it. We both enjoy it. We have fun with it. And it's just one of those things that it's hard. It's hard to just find the time for it. And not even find the time for it. That's not even the right phrase, but like to find the energy for it, because what gets prioritized. And we've been doing some other stuff creatively and artistically that isn't podcasting. So I mean, we're fine. It's just the podcast stuff is like, what do you do with that? So this new, wow, again, I'm really nailing it with the words today. What a great day to do podcasting. But this is what it's really like. This is what the actual, when you're doing solo podcasting, when you hear someone who's really, really good at it, it's deceiving, because it seems like it should be so simple. And it's one of the hardest things to actually do, because there's no one to feed off. There's nothing to bounce off. So like every pause feels like a million years. And so eternities are passing while I'm trying to figure out what to talk about next. Even though I have a list right here of all my topics, which I'm actually working through pretty well. This is kind of like a secondary introduction. Secondary introductory episode. Mostly just to kind of fill you in on what I am planning to do with this space, why I'm doing it, a little more than my short teaser. But so I have some artists and friends lined up, friendly artists who are friends lined up to record with me over the next week. And that's a broad spectrum of different types. I got musicians, actors, more musicians, glassblower, some really cool stuff, because everyone's art is unique to them. And I'm really curious to find out how it's affecting other people. I know how it's affecting me and the people I am close to and have been kind of interacting with over this time. And I feel like we all, at least in that small subset of people that I know already, I can see that there was this weird trend of how we feel about what we're making, what the energy level is like for that, where we're pulling inspiration from, or why we're doing it. And for me, I spent the first half-ish of the initial 6 months of pandemic telling myself I was going to do it, getting frustrated with myself for not picking something up and working with it. And then I had a friend posting about his short he was working on. I asked if I could come out and just take stills, because I was like, I have this camera. I've bought a bunch of crap for it, like just different gadgets and lenses and things. And my camera work is the thing I've really been wanting to work on, because it's, I think, the weakest element of my filmmaking, because I'm not a trained cinematographer. I'm learning right now. I'm learning right now in the year 2020 how to do a lot of that stuff. So I went out, to the location and shot just a handful of stills. And a couple days later, he said, hey, some stuff has changed. I need to start over on this film. Do you want to help me direct it? And would you like to shoot it for me? And so that was pretty much opened the door for me to kind of get back on the creative horse and go for it. So that started it. And then that literally just put the camera back in my hands, put me back in an environment where I was working with other people. It brought back a little bit of the thrill, I guess, of why I like to make films, which is to, okay, so sorry, I had to pause for a second because that wonderful, brilliant, beautiful partner of mine I was bragging about earlier, I accidentally locked her out of the apartment, so had to let her back in. Which, see, we're doing great because I wanted to let her back into the home. That's how it should be. You should always want to let someone back in. I think that's my philosophy. Anyway, so I put myself back into a position where I was working with my camera, and it gave me the chance to focus on cinematography, which is not an area I get to spend a lot of time focusing on, because when you're doing when you're writing, directing, producing, and shooting and editing your own films, really you have to spread everything kind of thin. At least in my case, because I was usually trying to kind of meet a deadline for a certain film festival or something in that realm. So really my first 3 feature projects were all just film school for me to learn kind of how to do stuff and on a deadline and to see what came out of it. So in spending that time this summer working on that project, that really motivated me to want to, at home while I'm here in my house, my apartment, with all this camera gear, I was like, I need to bust that stuff out. I need to set up some shots. So I started kind of doing, I guess, like still life short films. So little like 30-second to 1 minute, just single shots of an object or an item, and just filming it and looking at depth of field and light and angles, and just to see what kind of moods I could evoke from them. And that's what that bracket of experimental shorts really is. I don't even know that I would hesitate to classify them as short films. They're like homework projects, but they're cool to look at, I think. And I with each one was teaching myself something new, what lenses I want. This is the most boring conversation about lenses, but like talking about how something looks on a podcast, to say, well, then I mounted the 85 millimeter lens on the Canon SL2 to create, I mean, like, fine, but it's better to look at it. So you can go to my YouTube channel. You can look at those shorter pieces. They're just the ones that have like a single thing. Like there's ball face. It's one of those stress balls with an emoji face on it. There's an old fashioned radio one. There's, gosh, who knows what else? I already forgot what they were. But I can look at those things. I can look at those pieces, and I can see my own progress, and that's been really cool to do kind of some work and some self-evaluation, and then figure out where I want to grow and build and learn in those things. So, and all that is to build up to what I would like to be doing, which is getting back into narrative filmmaking, figuring out how to do that in a time when really people are not supposed to be congregating. I mean, we're, as of this recording, not only a week away from the election, but, looking at the third trimester of this virus, the third peak and wave of it, where people are kind of preparing to buckle down and stay in, hopefully, for the winter, just like our ancestors would have done once upon a time. So I want to figure out how to implement what I'm learning, integrated with the virtual method in which we're doing a lot of things. So is it possible to do a good movie using Zoom footage? Is it possible to describe to someone how to do a setup and then film themselves and then edit that into a movie? Is it possible to do live theater on a Zoom setup? And people are, I'm not suggesting I'm proposing these right now. Like I'm the one who was like, wait a minute, you guys, what if we did a Zoom theater show? No, I didn't invent this. I'm sure you know that. I hope. No, or if you don't, then you can believe I just came up with those things and it's my idea. But, you know, like it's looking at these tools that we now have, these things that as an introverted human person, a neurodiverse individual who has been begging for society to bring us these types of tools, it's like all of a sudden there's a global pandemic and you guys want to all meet virtually. This is great. You know, I mean, those of you who are hearing me right now, you hear me, you know. So it is really fascinating to see people embracing, even though possibly reluctantly, and even if we're still trying to figure out things like education over these virtual conversation tools, it is in the framework of art, it is really interesting because it opens things up. Because if I have an actor who I really like working with who has since moved across the country, it's creating realms and environments and mediums where if I said I was doing, like, if let's propose a scenario that in 2017, if I came to you and said, hey, I'm doing a show on Zoom, it's on Thursday night at 7:00, you would probably say, what the hell is a Zoom? Is that one of those scooters people are riding around on in Los Angeles? Or you might say, oh, isn't that for like business meetings? Or you might say, wow, you really you invented something really cool, that you are a genius. And so who knows which one people would have chosen in 2017. It's a choose your own adventure, time travel, past experience. But, you know, I mean, whereas now if I say I'm doing a Zoom show, you know what that means. And you know that you probably don't want to watch it. You're going to say, I've got a bad internet connection that night. I'm washing my router, which I am expecting. I'm expecting to wash my, no, I'm not. I'm expecting that we're going to have a whole new wave, a whole new lexicon of digital excuses for not showing up. Because really, how hard is it? I mean, you could just be like, oh, my Wi-Fi just crapped out. Sorry, I can't get on for that. Guess I'll have to see you next time. Oh, it's, you know what? It came back overnight. Actually, this did actually happen to me last night. This is a true story. It was right before going to bed, which was kind of a nightmare because, well, we'll get to that part. So, I don't know, 12:30-ish, half an hour after midnight, the internet stopped working. And it was not the router, as we checked. It was actually the modem. It was not receiving a signal. And so it was like, well, we're going to bed anyway. It's like, who cares? But I like to sleep with the TV on. And because it's 2020, wow, it's 2020, everything is streamed. So I'll either throw on like a YouTube playlist or Netflix or whatever and let that, you know, turn the volume all the way down. It's just like leaving the TV on, TV land or something at night. But I couldn't do that because there was no signal. And I was like, well, this is weird. Sleeping like a regular human in the dark. I did put a podcast in my ears, but then, but the problem now is like I have a nice cheap pair of like Bluetooth earbuds, and they will fall out of my ears. This is, I know, the riveting stuff you all came here for, was to listen to this. So anyway, but that's another example though, right? Of like, we rely so heavily on art to get us through the day, from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and sometimes through the part of the day where we sleep. There's just, for me, I'm always, I don't know. I don't know if it's because I was raised by television in the 80s. I don't know if it's just because it's just my makeup for my brain. It's just how I feel comfortable. But like, we rely so heavily on it. So for me as an artist, it's important to be contributing and creating and doing these things. And I'm really looking forward to these future episodes with fellow artists where we can talk about what's going on with them. Because maybe for some people, depending on your medium and what you do, I could imagine maybe some stuff has been booming in the last several months. As long as you can have the motivation, I guess, behind you to make it happen, or, some kind of a drive. If you're creating something that people are actually paying money for, then it's a financial drive, or just the emotional satisfaction of doing it. That's kind of what it is for me, is just making stuff that I can put out and people can enjoy it. We did our 4 spooky October shorts. I'm hoping to slip one more in there before the end of the week if we can. We'll see what happens with that. So, it's kind of all I had for today, was just to talk about goals and aspirations and where we would like to visualize ourselves in the next 7 to 10 days and beyond. No, that's not what we're doing. Although we could, if you want me to do like a self-help. No, please, not with all you hear. I don't even know if you can hear this. There's like sirens in the background. The leaf blowers at least are gone. That I waited to start recording because the gardener crew, the groundskeeping crew, was right outside the window, blowing dust around, and I was not delighted by it, but they went away, and here we are. So this, this feed, for the most part, primarily on this Patreon, is all on the free side of the paywall. Wow, the paywall. I keep drinking coffee before I roll with this, and it makes all of my elements move at different speeds, I feel like. So sometimes I'm tripping on myself. That's okay. That's what the real part of all this is, right? So what am I trying to say is that I'm trying to keep pretty much everything here free, dropping a couple of things earlier for the paying patrons. But I just want to make this stuff accessible. So all of these podcast episodes will also double up over on YouTube. So if you just want to follow the YouTube channel, which is linked in the notes to this, you can do that. There's also, if you do join the Patreon, you'll get a little link to like the RSS feed. You can plug it into your podcast player, and then it'll auto load those episodes in there. Yeah, I just want to stay connected with people, and please reply wherever the comments are, wherever you're listening. I'm watching, just like Santa, as we're moving into Christmas season, is always watching you. So that's not terrifying at all, is it? I'm a little bit scared. So yeah, you can, I think I'm done. I must be done talking, right? Because the words are stumbling, although that's regular. Thanks for listening to this Kben talks in your ears, or I don't know what the H was supposed to stand for when I wrote this. You know why? I know why this happened. This was not intended to be a cross promotion. My first film was called Attack of the Yeti Hand, and the abbreviation for that is Attack AOTYH. So the YH just, I think, came out naturally at the end there. So anyway, that answers the mystery. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back probably tomorrow with more of this great content. Have a good one.